Part 2 of how do proper names really work. Now I would like to come back to our fundamental localizing and characterizing rules. It is important to see that none of these rules is essential in the sense of being necessarily applicable to any possible owner of the name. It's easy to show this. We can conceive a possible world W1 near to ours where Aristotle does not satisfy the characterizing rule, for example, in the case he died as he was very young and never wrote his opus. And we can also conceive a possible world W2, also near to ours, where Aristotle does not satisfy the localizing rule, for example, in which he was born and wrote his work 200 years later in Rome. Kripke was prompt to note this point. Nevertheless, as a point that Kripke would not be very prone to note, at least in some degree, a disjunction of these two fundamental description rules, localizing and characterizing, must be always satisfied. Here are two attempts to give examples where neither the localizing nor the characterizing description rules are minimally satisfied. I affirm that Aristotle we are talking about was a Greek businessman who lived in the 20th century, seduced Callas and married Jacqueline. Of course, this is a confusion. Another example, borrowed from Cyril, an Aristotelian scholar comes to us and says he discovered that Aristotle had never anything to do with philosophy. He was a fishmonger who lived in the late Renaissance. Of course, this must be wrong. Moreover, without any satisfaction of these fundamental conditions, we do not get the identifying application of the proper names even if the auxiliary descriptions are applied. Suppose, for example, that the fishmonger had thought someone called Alexander, that he founded a lyceum and was called the master of those who know by his friends. This would not help us. Alexander would not be the greatest conqueror of all times. He could not really found a lyceum, and he could not be called the master of those who know except for mockery. So, auxiliary descriptions are useful only in a context in which the fundamental descriptions are fulfilling the identifying role. Since the disjunction of fundamental description rules is essential, I propose the following meta-descriptive rule to be applied to any proper name. NDR. A proper name N is used to refer to an object X belonging to a certain class of objects if and only if 1. X satisfies the localizing description for N and or X satisfies the characterizing description for N. 2. This satisfaction is sufficient, and 3. This satisfaction is more complete for X than for any other object belonging to the class C of objects. This class C of objects is classificatory of a domain of objects. This is something that since Aristotle gives in definitions. And we will follow. Applied to the name Aristotle, this general meta-descriptivist form of rule generates a rule of identification for the name Aristotle, which is RE for Aristotle. The name Aristotle is applied to refer to a man if only if 1. This is the disjunction of fundamental description. This man was born in Stagira in 384 BC, lived part of his life in Athena and died in Chalcis in 322 BC, and or he was the author of the main ideas of the Aristotelian opus. 2. And these conditions are satisfied by this man sufficiently, and 3. More than by any other man. The condition 2 is important, since in a possible world where Aristotle died, for example, in his childhood, but was born in 384 BC, son of Nicomedes, and so on, we would say that there is an Aristotle, although he satisfies only part of the localizing rule, since he died earlier, and satisfies nothing of the characterizing rule, since he wrote nothing. But it's already sufficient to the identification of Aristotle in this possible world. The condition 3 is also important, for suppose there is a possible world with two twins, Aristotle 1 and Aristotle 2. They were born in 384 in Stagira and so on. The first of them went to Athens to study with Plato and wrote the Aristotelian opus, while the second learned medicine like the father and went on with Alexander, dying from hunger and thirst as they come back from India. Well, who is our Aristotle? Of course, it must be the first, and what takes account for this is the third condition.